Alright, so I want to go over how to properly snorkel a shiftable Honda 500. Okay, so first of all, you need to get the seat off. I'll lever back here. Get this unstrapped, my little back seat here. Makes it a little more comfortable. And pop this. And pull up on that. Slides that out, exposes your battery back here. So you got your battery, and then you got your fuse panel right here. Opens right up, full of water. So what I've figured out is to get that fuse panel apart and dielectric grease the whole bottom inside of it, and then just plug your fuses in, and water doesn't get into the fuses or into the bottom of the fuses, so it doesn't ruin the fuses, and the dielectric grease keeps it running. So you got a couple more plug-ins there. Every single plug that's on this thing, you want to dielectric grease it. You can buy it in a tube. Let me see. Might have some over here. It's this drawer. No. Wrong drawer. So, right here, see if I can put that to where you can see it. Dielectric grease, tune-up. Squirt that into all your connections. Have it coming out like goop in all your connections. And then just plug them back in. And it won't let water get in there and keeps the contacts connected when you're underwater. So, on this thing, it's a pretty quick, just unpop these guys here, and this guy over here, right there. Pull this back off. Alright, so now the air box cover, I took that off. There's a gasket that runs around this whole thing. I pulled the gasket out. I got gasket maker. I filled that gasket with gasket maker. Where the gasket goes, there's a seam in there. I let it dry 2 days. Then I put my gasket back in. Now when I clench it down, it seats really good and allows me to still open my air box. It's a little tough, but it does open. Under here, you got your four-wheel drive switch, and all your switches are all in line here. See if I can grab a Phillips head screwdriver real quick. There's one right here. Have one of these guys real quick. Open this up, I'll show you what that looks like. First of all, before I do that, this needs to get dielectric greased. It just pulls these pins out a little bit, and it slides right out of your way. Like so, up and out of the way. So you can get at this box a lot easier. Just move that. Make sure you dielectric grease each one of these. Pull them out and dielectric grease in those plug fittings. It's easy to pull these. You just push down on here, or well, lift up on this one and pull. Lift up right here and pull, and it pops right out. Dielectric grease those. Alright, then you want to unscrew this. This guy. Oh, my 3 screws. Forgot about that. So there's 3 screws in here. So nobody's ever shown me this. I've been working on Hondas for a long time, and kind of figured it out on my own. I know they have shown dielectric greasing all of these, okay? What they don't tell you is that there's these little black guys right here. You want to pop them out and dielectric grease those. Those are the passes for the switches right here. So they allow the power to pass through. So you want to pop them out. There's one or two on each one. This one's got one. This one's got one. And this one's got one. You want to pop them out and dielectric grease them too. You can see my dielectric grease just pumping out down in there, because I made sure to dielectric grease everything. So these guys up here, make sure you dielectric grease them. And this computer just goes right back in here. Pull these back, slip it forward, locks right in. Just like that, slip it forward. These little clips right here, you can pull one side a little bit and then pop the other side, and it should slide right out very easily. And then just push her back in to lock her in. Make sure you dielectric grease all these fittings. This is your fuel pump. You don't have to do anything with that fitting. All your fuel sensors, pop them off and dielectric grease them too. I put packing grease, just a little bit of packing grease down in here on my throttle, because as much as I've been riding and that I've known about mud, is sometimes it'll get in there and stick your throttle there. So you want to take that cover plate off, lube it up real good, WD-40 it out first, lube it up real good, and put a little grease around in there. The grease will help keep it lubricated when it's in the water. So other things that I've done, I've had to go up here. You got your rollover switch right there, you can see with the orange on it. That's your rollover switch. Dielectric grease that. Water gets in there, it's going to throw the sensor. Your bike will not start. The bike will think that the rollover switch is tripped and the bike will not start. So make sure you dielectric grease that rollover switch. Let me see if I can get a better angle at it. That line's in the way. There you go. This rollover switch right here. Make sure you dielectric grease that. Some people have turned them a little bit so you can get a little more of a pitch on your quad. I leave it straight. I haven't had one single problem with it. I dielectric greased it. I water wheelie for hours. No problem. Now there's a bunch more fuses up and under here, or plugs up and under here. You want to dielectric grease all of them. Down here, your front diff switch, dielectric grease that switch. Very important. All your switches. I've put dielectric grease in my spark plug boot. Make sure I get a good connection. Works great. The sensor, the thermostat sensor. Make sure you dielectric grease your thermostat sensor. Everything that's going to get wet that's a plug needs to make sure that you put dielectric grease in it. I took out my headlights because the bulbs, when they get hot and then they get wet, they pop and water gets in the bulb and it can short the system. So all I did was I just filled the plug with dielectric grease and I leave the lights out. No problem. Of course I put these waterproof lights front and rear on switches, which I've had to buy waterproof wiring harnesses and dielectric grease them too for the lights, because they just keep blowing lights underwater. Dielectric grease all your light switches. So out of the airbox, I came with a 90. You can see up in there, I came out with a 90 with a piece of tube on it going into the box. Siliconed all around that, locked it down. It's silicone or gasket maker, the actual connection to the box. That boot that goes into the box, they pop out. You can RVT them, and then they won't leak. And then I came out of there into another 90 piece of tube with a rubber boot in the center so that I can always get into my air box. All I have to do is just loosen these two screws, slide this back a little bit, this guy forward a little bit, this guy forward a little bit, and then I can open my air box. Here's two more connections. Dielectric grease them. This is on the right side of the quad. If we go back here, I put a vent line on my differential and then a vent line on my brake bleeders. Even though the drums are going to leak water no matter what, the bleeder valves, I don't want to ruin them as much as I can to keep water out of them. But the differential vent line, definitely want to do that. Everybody gets rid of this resonator box because it leaks. Mine does leak, but 3-4 hours in the water, I get maybe a cap full. So let's see. Here, it was in for about 2 hours today. It's about a cap full in there, you know. I'm not really worried about it. I've lubed it up, cleaned it up. That little bit of water that gets in the box, it's so low. It's so little. I don't really even concern myself, which majority of that is from today. Going real fast and slamming into the water. The snorkels do suck in a little bit of water through them when you slam into water fast. No two ways around it. I told my nephew I put a P-trap in with a bleeder on the P-trap. And up front, he had the spacing for it. Mine, I didn't. I just ran it up. I put a double tube in. I put a T here with another rubber boot up and under there and ran it across. So the one comes out right here, right before the shock. It's an easy straight shot. That's what I think everybody does normally, just straight shoots it and comes out. But I wanted mine a little bit different, and I wanted it to be able to roll over, take in water on a tube and not shut down, so I did a double tube. If you do a single tube and you put your hand over it, you'll stall your bike out, obviously, because it's lacking for air. My double tube, the other tube, will always pull air, so my bike won't shut down in a deep hole if I tip it too far and it gets water in the snorkel. It's not always the best thing if you get water in your engine, but my tip overs are real short typically if that does happen. So the double tube really helps. So like I said, I got the one coming out here, rubber boot, up to a couple 90s and then back up through. I ran the two vent lines from the back up the one side for my vent lines off of my differential. As you can see, there's another one down there on the differential right there. That one goes up on the other side. So yeah, the double tubes with the boots work really good. Now if I get a hit in these guys, they can take movement and hits because of those rubber boots. Smack a tree limb too hard or something like that, if it's all just straight PVC and glue, it's going to snap on you. You know, you're going to end up getting a fracture in your PVC. So on the other side I did the same thing. I came across the frame, turn there, turn here, and came up the other side. So it was identical on both, with the rubber boot obviously here. So I have one coming out of the air box with a rubber boot there. Then it comes up to a T, and T's across. Let's see if I can show that. T's across right there, crossed in front of the motor, behind the frame rails, to another rubber boot, and then each side I have a rubber boot. So if I have to break this apart any time to get anything out, it's very easy. On top of the fact that I was at this place and this guy was climbing a tree over top of my quad, and he fell out the tree, landed right on my snorkels, and the rubber boots took the hit. They didn't break the PVC, they just moved a little bit on the boots. Now, also, these I didn't glue, these top runners. I just shoved them in real tight and then put a little bit of silicone around the edges. Same with up here. If I want to extend them, I can do that. Makes it real easy, you know, to move things around. The water's still not going to get in there. It's such a tight fit, and then the silicone being on there stops it. But it allows me to be able to change them out in a hurry if I need to. I came up 90'd again, strapped to the front or to the rack, which eventually I'm going to get a bracket for there, so that it stabilizes a little bit more. And then brought my tubes up to the same height as my snorkels, but yet put them underneath. They were on top, and when it rained, the water would bounce on the plastic and shove water in the tubes. So I slipped them back underneath, just rotated them underneath. So now when it rains, the water runs down, it kind of just runs off of them instead of in them. Eventually, I'm going to drill holes right here and just shove them into the tube and point them down. Then they just will stay 100% dry, and then just black RVT around it real good so no water gets in there. I don't do the headlight pod, running everything into the headlight pod, because I do go over my handlebars sometimes. Right before I pull it up in a really deep hole, sometimes the handlebars will go under. So I didn't want to put everything in the pod. I wanted to put it all where I could see it, and I knew where I was at. But the biggest thing is making sure you go through and dielectric grease all of your connections, even these guys back here. Right here, 1, 2 of them. You got to get every single connection that is on your Honda that is an electrical plug. Unplug it, dielectric grease it, fill it up with dielectric grease, and plug it back in. And then water won't get in there. I put dielectric grease in my outlet here, my plug. Never had a problem with it. I've been so deep in water. These things always rust out, go bad, and then nobody has that plug. Mine works great. I can plug my cell phone in and charge it if I have to after being out in the water. I can do whatever I got to do out of that plug. Don't have a problem. Dielectric grease every connection that's electrical. Take apart your switch plate right here. Pull this apart. All your switches in there. Pump dielectric grease in there. Same with your 4-wheel drive switch up here. Guys say don't worry about it. I put dielectric grease in there. This thing never gives me a problem. Every connection that I can find on my quad, I dielectric grease. And I took the whole thing apart to do it. It took me a couple weeks to get this whole thing the way I wanted it, because I obviously mocked things up, changed things. I left everything alone with the breather for the oil vent line. It goes into the box, breathes out the box, it comes up high and goes into the air filter. And pull, if it ever backlashes oil, it just goes into the air filter and lubricates the air filter. So I didn't want to bother with that. Now I know if you fill the box up with water, you're getting water in your crankcase, but I don't have that problem. Like I said, I can be under 3-4 hours and I get maybe just that little cap full of water in there. And that's about the size of it. So yeah, if you like this video, hit the like button. You can subscribe and see more videos. I do a lot of different things. I work on quads. I haven't uploaded all my videos. I got motorcycles, jet skis I like to play. I got a big fan, or two young girls, and they like to come out riding with us. And yeah, so you guys have a wonderful night. Like I said, you can hit the like button or subscribe, and you can see more of my videos. I go out and play. This thing's been water tested. I got videos on there. if you just go in and look up maybe Send It or Honda Loves Water, you'll find my video that this thing's been underwater quite a few times, quite often actually, a lot, and it doesn't bother it. I don't have to make a testing my snorkels video for everybody. You can just watch my videos, watch me ride this thing and put it underwater. It don't hurt it. So, alright, have a wonderful night.